What's up, everybody? And today we're checking out a new channel. It's called Operation Room, The Operations Room. And the video is a new video from 2 days ago called Desert Storm, a dangerous low-level bombing mission from hell. I haven't checked this video out. I haven't checked this channel out before. You guys know, I usually do like videos about military equipment and vehicles and stuff like that. And I don't really do videos about specific events that happen in the military, but it's something I really want to do. This looks really interesting. I've been recommended the Operations Room's channel so many times. It's crazy, actually. Apparently, it's a very, very good channel. Like I always do. Link down below in the description. Make sure you go down there. Go over to the Operations Room. Give it a subscribe, a like, and all that good stuff. Yeah, I'm interested to know. A Desert Storm is like a subject that I just don't know that much about. And it's kind of embarrassing to say, considering I'm a former commando. I don't think this is about Desert Storm as a whole. I think it's about a specific thing that happened during Desert Storm. With that being said, I feel like it's Desert Storm's this weird kind of modern historical event that it seemed to have slipped under the radar. Like I don't remember learning much about it in Royal Marines training. I was in training in 2008. And so there wasn't really that much like every time we went into learning about the history of the Royal Marines, it was always about World War II, World War I, and, you know, stuff like that. We never really did something as, I would say, modern like Desert Storm. It was like that grey area, right, where it's modern enough where it's still relevant, but it's old enough where it's not in the history of the Royal Marines. Do you get what I'm saying? It's like that grey area, and we just didn't really know much about it. And maybe it's one of them subjects where, like, I should know about it, but it's been so long that I don't want to admit that I don't know much about Desert Storm. I can know why it happened. I just haven't gone into the intricacies about the logistics and who was involved at what points, right? And where people were at the time. And I obviously know why we, led up to Desert Storm for obvious reasons. So yeah, it's something that I want to learn more about. And I want to start doing more videos about actual historical events and military events. Even going back to like medieval stuff, like I'd love to learn. I know there's channels that do like, oh, where's it gone? There's channels that do videos on historical battles as well. Not just like, going back to World War I and II, but going back even further. That's the type of stuff I'm really interested in. If you guys want to see that, then let me know in the comments. But for now, the Operations Room, link down below. Make sure you go over there, give it some love. Let's watch this. It's like 14 minutes. Let's sit back, let's enjoy it, and let's see what this channel's got to say.
I wanted to take this opportunity to thank each and every one of you for your support over the last 5 years. We've grown into an enthusiastic international team of 15 people. We've loved producing battle map animations for you, and we love hearing how much you enjoy them.
Oh, they did a Black Hawk Down one? Ooh. We might have to check that out.
We do our absolute best to offer accurate and unbiased recreations of the most important battles and operations of the 20th and 21st century.
Brilliant.
I hope we've done a relatively good job of this. However, you may have seen among fellow history creators that views on long-form history content across the board are much reduced from even 12 months ago. The YouTube algorithm, which recommends our videos to people who might be interested in watching them, has been updated in a way which intentionally or otherwise suppresses recommendations of history content.
That is such a shame. That is such a shame. Like, that really grinds my gears because not only do I personally love history videos, but I think it's incredibly important that this information gets out there.
The team of people relying on the monetization that comes from views, and with fewer views with which to negotiate with sponsors, without which we can't produce videos full stop.
Yeah.
This has become a major problem for us. Shorts, and YouTube's own ads, which we don't receive any revenue from, also now take up valuable space on the YouTube homepage that would ordinarily be used to recommend long-form content.
Yeah.
YouTube's demonetization bots have now run completely out of control, with our second channel, The Intel Report, having been recently completely demonetized by mistake, only to be eventually reinstated after 2 appeals. We continue to be censored from mentioning certain words, people, events, and topics. You may have seen the farcical lengths that we had to go to in a recent video on the reasons for the Iraq War to not mention naughty words. With that in mind, this video is sponsored by our Patreon. We're uploading videos completely ad and sponsor free.
That's a shame, that, because these are historical events and they need to be told. You can't hide history. You can't do that, otherwise you're doomed to repeat it.
We've launched a new Patreon exclusive Q&A series. I intend to also use Patreon as an exclusive release platform for any videos which get demonetized on YouTube. Absolutely no pressure at all, but if you'd like to support us to be able to continue making videos, it would be amazing.
Again, I will leave a link down below for this. Make sure you go over there and give them some love. People who make history videos, they definitely don't get... There's very, like, I think, important genres, especially on YouTube, that don't receive enough love, and history is one of them. It's so important that we learn this stuff. It's so important that we teach our children this stuff about what happened. Again, because if you don't learn about history, you're doomed to repeat it.
Please take a look at patreon.com/the operations room. That's patreon.com/the operations room. No problem at all if you aren't able to support us financially. We appreciate all your support since April 2019.
Great video.
It's the 20th of January.
Great announcement, I should say.
1991, the third day of the air war of Operation Desert Storm. At 3 a.m., 8 Tornado GR-1s of 15 Squadron of the RAF begin taking off from Muharraq Air Base in Bahrain.
I've been there, to Bahrain, to the US military base in Bahrain. When I was on ship and I was doing anti-piracy, we stopped there. I was absolutely amazed about how big that base was. I think this actually was the first time I went to a US base while I was in the Royal Marines. And me and the other lads, the other Royal Marines that I was with, there was only a few of us. We went to the store in the US base there in Bahrain and couldn't believe they had like video games and everything. It was unreal, like absolutely unreal.
Just before the order was given to take off, the pilot of the last Tornado in the formation reported they could not select reheat for their engine, forcing them to abort the mission.
Oh.
The rest of the jets take off without them and climb to 12,000 feet en route to meet their Victor tankers. After the refueling, they will begin a 1,600-mile round trip, which will take them 4 hours to complete.
That's a long trip.
The RAF pilots are completely unaware of the challenges they are about to face and will be pushed to their absolute limits in what will later be known as the Mission from Hell.
The Mission from Hell. That doesn't sound very reassuring, does it?
Aircraft from a powerful coalition of nations have been pounding Iraq around the clock for the past 3 days. While the larger campaign has been incredibly successful at neutralizing the Iraqi Air Force and air defenses, the RAF's Tornado fleet has suffered heavier than expected casualties. 15 Squadron has had 2 aircraft shot down so far in the war, and altogether 4 Tornadoes have been lost, representing more than a third of all coalition aircraft losses.
Yeah.
Squadron leader Nigel Risdale recalled thinking, "It's becoming like the Lancaster bombers in the Second World War. More aircraft, more friends lost every night." Whereas the US Air Force and Navy have averaged 1 aircraft downed every 750 sorties, the RAF is suffering 1 Tornado lost in every 80.
Wow.
There are several reasons for this. The Tornadoes have been assigned the role of hitting and disabling Iraqi airfields at
That's terrifying, that, isn't it? Wow, I did not know that.
low level. A dangerous task considering the Iraqi military's fearsome coverage of low-altitude AAA batteries and manpads defending key sites. Another contributing factor is that thus far in the campaign, the structure of the missions tends to be that American aircraft will carry out preliminary attacks to soften up Iraqi defences before the RAF Tornadoes reach the target at low level. Flight Commander Gordon Buckley believes these softening up raids are actually alerting the enemy to imminent attacks by the low-level GR-1s, which then take the brunt of enemy fire. Tonight,
Do you know, it's funny, in the Royal Marines, we just, obviously when we're doing history and stuff like that in training, we learn about Royal Marine history, right? Obviously there's a bit of British military history there, but it's mostly about Royal Marine history. And so we never really were learning about what the RAF were up to and what they were doing and what they've done in their history. It was just never a subject that we ever touched on. Obviously with the Royal Marines being part of the Navy, we did learn about the Navy a little bit and their history, but we just didn't really touch on the RAF.
15 Squadron is trying a new tactic. Buckley suggests to Detachment Commander John Broadbent that 15 Squadron should conduct their next raid alone, without a preliminary strike by the US Air Force, in order to maximise surprise. Broadbent agrees that this is worth a try. Tonight's mission to Al Jarrah Air Base, southeast of Baghdad, will be conducted by 7 GR-1s. Their objective is to put the airfield out of commission so the 3 squadrons of Su-22 fighter bombers and a squadron of MiG-23 fighters cannot impede air operations. However, the failure of 1 Tornado to take part is only the beginning of the problems on this night. As the flight climbs to meet their tankers, the aircraft...
But where did the tankers come from? Where did they come from? Did they come from Bahrain as well?
Are tossed around and buffeted by intense turbulence. Powerful updrafts and downdrafts will make the task of refueling far more difficult than usual. As pilot Nick Hurd approaches the right wing of the Victor in front of him, he fights to keep the aircraft steady as he inches towards the refueling hose.
This is one thing I've always been crazy impressed with, when they refuel in the sky. I know it's something that pilots have been doing for quite a while now, and it's not a new thing, but it's so impressive that this is even a thing that's possible, isn't it? It's crazy impressive.
He's about to make contact with the hose. The flight enters clear weather, and the GR1 jolts forward and punctures the metal plates which hold the basket open. In peacetime, this would force an immediate return to base due to the risk of the basket breaking off and being ingested by the jet engine. But Hurd is determined to continue with the mission and gingerly backs away from the basket, and instead queues behind Squadron Leader Risdale on the tanker's left wing. Meanwhile,
that's a good idea.
The rest of the aircraft are finding it nearly impossible to hook on to the Victors. Nigel Risdale later recalled, "It was like being on high-speed dodgems at the fairground, and then being constantly battered from all sides by the other cars."
I mean, if this is anything to go by, it's just like one bad thing that's the start of something that's probably going to be pretty horrific, isn't it? And when did this take place again? Is it in here? It just says early in the campaign, so we don't. I don't remember what they said at the start about when it actually took place.
Some of the tornadoes managed to hook on, only to fly through violent thunderclouds and lose the connection. Flight Commander Buckley reluctantly sends one aircraft after another back to base once they take too much time to refuel. As the formation approaches the Iraqi border, they are down to only 4 tornadoes.
Wow. How many started? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7.
When it's Buckley's turn to tank, he manages to latch onto the rear Victor as it passes through the dense clouds. Suddenly, the sky clears and the Victor nearly collides with the leading Victor.
Oh
Buckley's
my god.
tanker executes an emergency dive to avoid collision, while the GR1 is caught in the lead tanker's jet wash. Buckley's tornado plunges 6,000 feet before he is able to regain control. He recalled,
Wow.
"I gave the Victor pilot a piece of my mind and told him to hold it steady this time." The flight commander manages to successfully refuel, but he is now significantly behind the rest of the formation as they cross the Iraqi border.
Oh my god.
Instead of 8 tornadoes launching a synchronized...
Oh, it was 8, not 7. It was 8 that they started with. So they're down to half. Oh, yeah, because one disappeared at the very start. One, what was it? Something was happening at the very start and they had to go back. This whole mission seems like they probably should have just finished it there and been like, all right, let's try again next time or something. But I guess at the same time, this was during a war, right? Like, this isn't just, a practice mission. So they kind of have to get shit done. Like, they have to take this pretty serious and just take it on the chin and be like, you know what, let's just crack on.
Strike on the Al Jarrah airbase. The attack will now be carried out by 3 GR1s, while Buckley and his weapon system officer, Paddy Teakle, lag behind. Despite their situation, Buckley decides to carry on with the mission and to try to destroy Iraqi AAA positions. Meanwhile, the 3 leading tornadoes approach their release point.
I love how much detail is going into with this as well, by the way. Just talking about this channel in general, because I haven't seen this channel before. I like the fact that it feels very military-esque, the way that he's presenting this data and telling the story in a way. I watch a lot of videos about stories, right? The Fat Electrician, Wendigoon recently, Mr. Ball, and people like that. They're very good at storytelling. But they're more of a classical way of storytelling, a bit more personal, whereas this is very military-esque, and I do like that.
So far, the formation has not been fired on by enemy defences. Speeding in at 200 feet above the desert floor and 550 miles per hour, pilot Nick Hurd is hopeful that the new strategy has caught the Iraqis by surprise. However, when the flight is 30 seconds from Al Jarrah, the night sky turns into day as multicoloured explosions bracket the aircraft while tracers zip past them. The tornadoes will once again be attacking into murderous enemy fire.
Jeez.
Hurd recalled, "For some reason, they seemed to know where we were coming from this time. Worse, the AAA was now angled downwards instead of spraying straight up.
Interesting.
The Iraqis have changed their anti-aircraft cannon trajectory, making it easier for them to track the GR1s. For a brief moment, Hurd is reminded..."
So where did they get the data that they were going to be coming from that direction? That's kind of concerning, isn't it? Like, it's easy to just say they just seem to know where we're coming from. Maybe it was just a case of they spotted them from a distance and they already had the idea of lowering the anti-aircraft. But still, like, that's kind of concerning.
Of 617 Squadron's Dambuster raid during the Second World War.
Yep.
To Hurd's left is Nigel Ridsdale's aircraft.
Which, just going back on that, and I'll rewind a little bit. The Dam Buster raids. Me and my brother recently went on a hike and we saw the dams where they practiced with. If you don't know what the Dam Busters are, what an incredible story. Google it. After you've watched this video, after you've gone over to the operations room and given some love, go and Google the Dam Busters, because it is mental, that story.
For a brief moment, Hurd is reminded of 617 Squadron's Dambuster raid during the Second World War. To Hurd's left is Nigel Ridsdale's aircraft, which is narrowly avoiding enemy ground fire.
Jeez.
Ridsdale's Tornado is carrying a JP-233 release pod, which must be deployed directly over the runway. This won't be an easy task. The air defences here are more sophisticated than at other Iraqi airfields. With 20 seconds to go, Ridsdale deselects the autopilot and dives the Tornado down to 180 feet.
Wow, that's it? 180 feet? Wow.
His munitions, which parachute gently to the tarmac below. Nick Hurd now begins his own run. Despite the aerial barrage around him, he also releases the munitions directly over the runway. 60 bomblets from the two aircraft slowly parachute down to Earth, ready to explode upon contact with the ground. A further 430 anti-personnel mines also cover the area to complicate Iraqi repair efforts. The two Tornado pilots jettison their empty external fuel tanks and turn for home, thankful to have survived the ordeal.
Okay, so there's two more lads on the way now then.
Meanwhile, Gordon Buckley and Paddy Teakle are approaching for their attack run.
The thing with this now is they already know that they're on the way. So it's not like they've got the element of surprise, which they initially wanted at the very start of the mission.
Ahead, they can see the tracers lighting up the night sky. Suddenly, the radar warning receiver announces that a fire control radar is tracking them. Buckley informs Teakle, turning in 3 minutes to avoid the SAM site, before adding, "How's the fuel? We're running on minimum fuel. We'll have to punch the underwing tanks off."
I'm wondering where troops were at this point. Because I don't know how far into Desert Storm this was. Like, where were the troops at this point? And the
With
friendly
only the bare
troops.
minimum to complete the mission and get back to the tanker, Buckley will need to jettison the external fuel tanks to make the Tornado lighter after their attack run. Unlike Hurd and Ridsdale, Buckley's Tornado is carrying 1,000-pound bombs, which are dropped by what is known as loft bombing, pulling up into a climb and releasing, thereby lofting or throwing the bombs towards the target in a ballistic arc.
That's interesting.
Up ahead, the first JP-233 munitions detonate, cratering the runway at Al Jarrah. The Iraqi anti-aircraft fire intensifies, as if the RAF strike aircraft have kicked a hornet's nest.
Wow.
I was expecting to see a hole in the AAA as the guns were destroyed, but there was nothing, no change at all, recalled Buckley. I now realise that we were going to have to attack into the same maelstrom. Teakle tells the pilot to increase speed, and the Tornado goes to afterburner. They are now approaching the target. The GR-1 is travelling at close to 700 miles per hour, as the Iraqi anti-aircraft fire zeroes in on the aircraft, which is flying at just 180 feet above the ground. Eager to escape the hurricane of tracers, Buckley says, "Looks like we're here, mate," to which Teakle angrily responds, "No, we're not there yet, keep going. I know the AAA looks close, you're alright."
I feel like this whole mission should have been restarted at the beginning, shouldn't it? As soon as they weren't able to refuel, you just already know that things are going rough, don't you? There's this weird feeling that a lot of lads get where you know something's going to go wrong. Like, you just know that it's about to go wrong or something's about to happen. I feel like they probably were well aware of that way before they even started.
The aircraft somehow does not take a hit despite the vicious anti-aircraft fire, but both men feel their luck won't hold much longer.
Yeah.
Finally, Teakle announces, "Pulling in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, pull." The aircraft climbs into the night sky as Buckley releases the munitions. Teakle announces, "Bombs all gone," as the 8 1,000-pound bombs arc towards the Iraqi positions.
Wow.
Buckley begins his recovery and jettisons the external fuel tanks, pulling hard to bank away from the enemy fire. Buckley pulls the aircraft inverted on its left wing and descends, but suffers from spatial disorientation in the empty night desert. In a matter of seconds, the GR-1 falls from 3,000 feet to under 500, as audio warnings fill the aircraft. Teakle shouts, "Start levelling off, mate, we've got 300 feet to go." Finally regaining his bearings, Buckley levels out less than 100 feet from the ground.
Oh my god! He only just levels out 100 feet from the ground? Oh my god! If you're in Britain, you know what this saying is, but I would definitely be doing 50p, 5p right now.
8 massive bomb blasts smash the targets on the ground and shake the aircraft. Teakle breathes a sigh of relief. That was close, to which his pilot responds, "I don't ever want to do that again."
Yeah, seriously.
The Tornado begins egressing south back towards the safety of Bahrain, while the enemy AAA continues to lance into the night sky.
Jeez.
By dawn, all 4 strike aircraft will be back on the ground at Muharraq Air Base.
Oh my
When
god.
the pilots stagger into the operations room for a debrief, one exclaims, "I'll tell you what, I don't have many more of those inside me." Buckley later remembered, "I can still see my friend's haunted expressions." Nearly everything went wrong during the RAF's mission from Hell on the 20th of January 1991.
Jeez.
15 Squadron's commander John Broadbent is shaken by his pilot's experiences and recommends further changes in his mission report. The next attacks will be launched with more Wild Weasel support, and the RAF will continually tweak their tactics throughout the war.
It's almost as if this was, you know, obviously you had the Falklands War and all that lot, but with the change of environment being in the desert, you have more of a visibility about what's like. You can just see more of a distance. I understand that. Well, where was this? What base was this at again? What airport was this at? Because I'm wondering if this was close to all the mountains, the mountain range. Well, yeah, I guess it is close. So, I don't know, like, everything changes between each terrain and each location, right? And so the tweaking of these missions, and this must have been closer to the start of the war, the Operation Desert Storm, it just seems like they're just learning on the go. Do you know what I mean? And trying to adapt, which is what all militaries do. All military, even the Royal Marines, will like that's the whole idea of being a good military is to learn to adapt to anything. But geez, like when it comes to adapting, you're gonna make mistakes, right? And in their case, it's not that they made any mistakes; it's that everything was just going against them, wasn't it?
Nigel Ridsdale will later recall, "For me personally, that third mission was an emotional watershed. The sortie from Hell, where everything that could go wrong had gone wrong. Nonetheless, Kuwait has yet to be liberated, and the Tornadoes of the RAF will be called on again to carry out their dangerous work."
Oh,
Thanks again to our amazing patrons, without which we wouldn't be able to produce videos like this.
great video. First video I've watched of the operations room. Let me go to their channel real quick. Let me pull this up. They've got some really interesting videos. Please go over and give it a subscribe. Desert Storm. So they've got more videos on Desert. Oh, Battle of Midway. Ooh, Black Hawk Down. Oh, the Ground War of Desert Storm as well. Oh my god, they got some good ones here, haven't they? Wow. Okay. I'm gonna have to check this out. It's always a little iffy. Oh, they've got the SAS Iranian friggin' embassy as well. That's sick. Obviously, when I react to a new channel, it's a bit like, you know, you got to be careful because some channels don't like it when you watch their content on here. Obviously, me and a lot of the other military community, military members who do these kind of watch videos, we're here just to give you some more, I don't know, perspective from military viewpoint, right? But some channels don't like that still, so it's always a bit worrying reacting to new videos. But with that being said, whatever happens, go over to their channel, give it a like, give it a subscribe, all that good stuff. Very important that you do that. Again, history is something that we should all be learning. We should all be learning a lot of. So, yeah, absolutely brilliant video. I loved the layout. I loved the way that they were doing the storytelling. I thought it was very military-esque. If you're into that vibe where it's a bit more... it's relaxed military storytelling at a formula of military. Does that make sense? Am I making sense with that? Like if I ever went into a briefing and they were telling you about something, it would be very much kind of like that. Obviously without the animation, because we weren't able to do that in the military. It was usually pointing at stuff on the ground. But it was very, I don't know, essential information only, right? And I like that about that. It's not as fancy as some storytelling, but it gets to the point and I like it. So I'll leave a link down below like I always do. Check out Morale, my new business. There'll be a link down below for that. I'm very excited for Morale. If you haven't checked it out, please go check it out. It's something I'm incredibly passionate about. So please go check that out. Other than that, I love you all and I'll see you in the next video. Have a wonderful day. Goodbye.